Hello and welcome everyone to Flicker Effect, episode 220. We're recording this on Sunday, June 25th, 2017. I'm David Lott. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, everybody.
Yasha Wilson.
Hey.
And Michelle Curry.
Hi, everyone.
What's up, guys? It's been so long.
Hello.
It's been like 10 minutes.
A whole 10 minutes.
Since we last recorded an episode.
A long time.
Refilled the waters.
It's been so long.
Restroom break.
What have you guys been up to?
Refilled the waters. Did a little restroom break.
That's about it.
That's about it.
So yeah, we just recorded 219 just before this. We have plenty to still talk about, so we're just going to go ahead and do our next episode right now. Why not? And let's just jump right into it, shall we? News. We didn't get a chance to talk about any news yet on that episode we just did. And we definitely had some news this week. The big one, of course, being that that Han Solo spinoff film that I've kind of been against from the beginning now has a new director. It had two directors before, and they have now been, I guess, basically fired. Even though it's funny, when news first dropped, it almost seemed like they didn't know like if they had been fired or if they just walked away from it. But no, it was pretty quick that it was like, no, they were let go. And this is a film that, I mean, you kind of commonly hear that kind of stuff from movies like pre-production. I mean, this happens all the time, but this movie was very thick into production, like very
3 weeks from finishing.
Yes, very, very far along. The directors, of course, we're talking about are Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who had previously directed the Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street. Did they do the sequel?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe. I could be wrong, but I didn't think they did. But
I didn't think they did either, but I
could
suddenly realized I wasn't certain about that. So yeah, they are no longer the directors of that Han Solo spinoff film. And in the next day or two after that happened, it was pretty quick. We already knew who our next director was going to be. It was a name that was already kind of being thrown around as a good possibility, and indeed he got the gig, and that is Ron Howard. He is now the director of the Han Solo spinoff movie. So yeah, this when this news dropped, I was definitely completely taken aback. Like, did not see this coming. So this was quite a shock, especially again considering how far along this has been in production. Man, this is weird. And
it's a shock, but almost at the same time, it's like, man, we almost should have seen it coming, because if you really think about it, there's been a lot of turmoil over with Lucasfilm and their directors with some of these spin-off movies. There's been obviously the latest is the Lord and Miller, but then we also had that whole thing with Gareth Edwards and how, what was it? They were saying was Tony Gilroy that came in and did a lot of the other stuff for the movie at some point in time. And we all know that there was a lot of the stuff that was in the trailer that didn't show up in the movie. So there was definitely changes there. And from all reports that are sort of behind the scenes say that he was sort of taking off the whole project at a certain point, and then he just still decided to kind of play ball and toe the company line and put on a smiling face. Whereas the other time we heard about this happening was with Josh Trank, and that was the whole thing where he was supposed to be directing Boba Fett, but I think what had happened was Lucasfilm had heard about the things that were going on when Josh Trank was doing Fantastic Four, and they just decided not to go in that direction. So I would say there's probably been no real turmoil in the regular Star Wars movies, except for there had been rumors of J.J. Abrams and also Kathleen Kennedy not getting or butting heads a little bit as well. So I don't know, there's been stuff and there's been signs of it, but it just, for all intents and purposes, seemed as though the Han Solo movie was going full steam ahead with no problems. Because I had honestly forgot it was filming, because it'd been so quiet and you just didn't really hear anything, and they were focusing on other aspects with the news that they had been releasing, because we haven't seen any photos, we haven't seen a trailer. So maybe now we know why there hasn't been anything, but I was just assuming it was because they were saving it either for D23 or for Comic Con, but maybe it's because they feel like they're not ready to show anything. So it's all very peculiar, and it makes you a little bit scared for what the final product will look like. But the stories that they have told right now are true in terms of what the tone was of what the Lord and Miller were filming. It sounds like they made the right call, and it just is unfortunate that it had to go so long before they did make the call. But it's like I definitely would not have wanted to see a comedic tone. I think someone in one of the articles described it as it was almost like it was uh, Ace Ventura in space kind of thing, like Jim Carrey-esque.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow,
Oh,
God.
no. Oh
horrible.
no.
And they, if I
That sounds
remember,
absolutely horrible.
yeah, and if I remember right, I think the latest news that it came out was that the reason why it got this far along before I guess there was anything being done is because it wasn't until uh, how do you say his name, David? Aaron Eric Wright?
Aaron Reich. I think it's Aaron Reich.
Who, yeah, Aaron Wright, who is the star, who is playing Han Solo, started to voice concerns up the chain in order to see if something could be done, which is troubling in one sense because it seems as though like no one was watching dailies or getting like any kind of sense of what was going on from the higher ups. Were they just completely hands off of this film? That it took the star in the movie to really start to light a fire to say, hey, something doesn't seem quite right. And good for him for doing so, because
Right.
his name is obviously plastered all over this, and this could be a make or break movie for him. So if all of a sudden he comes
Right.
out in this movie and it's too funny or too, I don't know, too much of a comedy in a way that we're not wanting from this character, then goodbye to his career, because no one's gonna. It would be very much a detriment to him going forward if he were to be in something like this. So if he's the one who had to have got the whole ball rolling, then I can appreciate that, because he doesn't want his name attached to something bad as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, officially we've heard nothing. I mean, Disney
Yeah.
has just put out a statement, and that's the way everyone's being, and that's what you expect. But yeah, a lot of the rumblings we're hearing is like what you just said. I mean, I've heard the deal where it's basically Lawrence Kasdan, who's the writer on this film, who, for those who don't know who that is, I mean, he wrote Empire Strikes Back, he wrote Return of the Jedi. I believe he was a writer on Force Awakens to some extent, and yeah, he wrote the screenplay for this, and it sounds like he's much more of a traditional, like, this is the script and this is what you shoot. And it sounds like the former directors were definitely doing a lot of improv and definitely changing things up, and there seems to be a lot of friction there too. But everything is just what we're hearing from news, getting it from sources, and it's all pretty crazy.
I mean, and I'll say, like, Han Solo is definitely not portrayed as a straight-laced character. Like, he sees the humor in every situation in a way, and he's a smartass and whatnot, and he likes to make light of things and doesn't take it all very seriously. However, it is not...
He's not a comedian.
No.
He's
No,
sarcastic.
no. He's sarcastic.
He's a sarcastic asshole. He's a sarcastic
Right.
asshole. If like you watch
Right.
some of them, in my opinion, is like if you watch some of the older movies, like when he first comes in, it's like he doesn't take it real. He doesn't take it seriously. I mean, it's almost like Harrison Ford played it that way. When you see him, like in the very first movie, he looks at Luke and he's like, "Hey, Luke, may the Force be with you," and he's almost laughing when he says it because he thinks it's a joke.
Right.
But
He's
it's like,
snarky.
he's not a comedian, like you said, David, and like you said, Michelle. He's not a comedian, and he's not Ace Ventura running around solving crimes in space.
No.
Like, if that's the role that they were trying to give this guy to do, like, thank God he might have said something, or they're making the change
Right.
now, because that sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah, he's just in it for himself. He's just trying to make a buck and,
Exactly.
and stay alive. That's basically his goals in life right there.
Right.
Anyways,
He looks
sorry.
out for number one, and he says that
Right.
emphatically, and he
Oh.
says that repeatedly, and he kind of gets forced into these extreme situations, makes the best of it, and then it ultimately does the right thing.
Right.
he's a sarcastic asshole who doesn't take any of this Force stuff seriously. He doesn't want to really do the bad thing. He runs, smuggles things from point A to point B for a paycheck.
Right. Anyways,
So
I'm glad he said something.
Now we have a director in Ron Howard, and I guess I'll just start off with what do we think about Ron Howard being director of a Star Wars film? I will say I'm not sure what to think about Ron Howard being the director of a Star Wars film. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ron Howard has quite a resume. He's obviously a talented director. I am not doubting that for a second. But, I look at his more recent work and it's definitely to me not overall as impressive as some of his earlier stuff. And yeah, I mean, he is now saying like, hey, I've always been a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know what else he's been saying about it, but I don't know. He could turn out to be really great, but it's definitely not the kind of pick that gets me like excited. So I'm not sure what to think of Ron Howard directing this, to be honest. Michelle, you sound like you're going to say something.
No, I don't really have a whole lot more to say. I'm mixed on it as well. I feel like, I don't know. Is this just because he's buddy with George? Like, I don't know. And I'm not questioning Ron Howard's directing abilities in any way, shape, or form when I'm saying this. I don't know if this is the fit or feel that I was kind of thinking was going to be happening, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen at this point. So yeah. You guys have any thoughts on these, or you guys are? I'm like, I hear crickets. No, I mean, or are you guys thinking that we're crazy?
No, I don't know what to add really, because I mean, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I was excited because I like Ron Howard's work, but I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, right off the top of my head, I don't remember him ever doing something super sci-fi like this before. So I don't really know what to expect, but hey, like, I like Ron Howard's work. I go and watch his movies. I enjoy his movies. I think they're great. But, let's see what he can do.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything you guys have said. I wish him luck, because I don't know exactly what he's stepping into and how much he needs to really rework and what capabilities he has to bring to this to make it something that will, at the end of the day, love for decades on. I mean, this is a essential character of the Star Wars lore. You got to get it right. I mean, there's a lot of people, and David included is one of the people who said, he really didn't even want to see this movie in the first place. So it's like, if you're going to do it, you better damn well do it right. And otherwise you're going to have a lot of upset people, because you're messing with a character that people have loved for years. And it's important for so much going forward to not only get the tone and the characterization and this movie right, but also for them to be able to continue having faith in doing these spin-off movies, to be able to have to where these directors are coming in and will be wanting to see them, because now it's going to be like, well, what are we getting with this one? And are we going to have some sort of debacle happen to where it's going to affect the quality of it? And I think they have to be very mindful of that. And if they brought in someone like Ron Howard, and a lot of it was in the articles I read, he brings a stability to the situation, and he can help sort of calm things. And I mean, that's great for, I think, the actors and the whole overall on-screen or off-screen morale. But what does that mean in terms of story, and what are we going to see there? And I'm really hoping and have my fingers crossed that they're able to come through on the other side with a better product than possibly what they started with. And we'll never know, because all that footage, it would be awesome to someday see some sort of what went wrong kind of a documentary and see what they had shot. But I doubt we ever will. And it's unfortunate, because it would be a very cool case study to see what these two different films will turn out to be like. But ultimately, I think they just really have to sort of make sure that Ron Howard is a good fit, and that we're not revisiting this a little bit later on down the line, and that they will essentially get exactly what they're looking for out of him and make a good movie.
Yeah, I think you're right, Bobby. I mean, it's all about content at this point, but I think you're right with him coming in, maybe to boost the morale, calm the group around him down, the actors, the crew members and everybody, and just kind of like offer that stability and that calmness that he probably brings to set when he steps on. And, he's been in the industry for his entire life. You can't even say most of his life, like his entire life he's been in the industry. So I think you're right when you say that he's going to just offer a different type of, morale, calmness, and stability when it comes to this. So I'm looking forward to see what he does.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I said from the beginning, like you just mentioned, Bobby, I've never been a fan of the idea of this movie, but in the end, I was admitted most likely it would come out, and I'd probably think it was great. Now, of course, I'm super skeptical of what will be accomplished with footage that was already shot by directors. Apparently, we didn't like what they were doing, and now you either have to kind of reshoot everything or kind of reshoot stuff and edit in such a way that you're going to make it work. I don't know. It should be interesting to see a final product for sure. Yeah. So, of course, I want it to be good as much as I didn't want the movie to exist. It's not like I wanted it to be bad. I would hate to see a terrible portrayal of a character like Han Solo. That would be horrendous.
Right.
So,
well, it's here now. The thing is like it's here now. We have to accept that it's coming and just prepare for, basically be prepared and hope that, it's going to be good because they are going to do it and they may do more. If it's successful. But I mean, I'm with you, David. Like, I wasn't super excited, or did I need this movie? Not at all. And I think we talked about that before, but it's like, it's here. So, okay, let's get the best thing possible out of this movie. Please, like, make it good.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. Oh, what's up, Bobby?
Well, I was going to mention something else that was in the news lately, and I actually wanted to see if you guys had heard about it. I don't know how much you want to discuss it, but they recently, I guess, had an embargo lift on Spider-Man Homecoming reactions. Not the full reviews, but just the reactions online. And I was curious if any of you guys had heard or read anything about it.
I mean, it's hard if you scroll through news. It's almost impossible to not see that, hey, there's, what buzz is being said when stuff like this happens. So, I mean, I haven't gone out of my way to read any like tweets or anything, but I have seen the headlines of articles trying to point me in that direction, and I can kind of see where they're all going. Like basically what the general consensus seems to be. Yes.
Yeah. So the reason why I sort of bring it up is because with all the different stuff, and Michelle sort of said it on our last podcast in terms of movies that have been sort of not necessarily must-see movies since Wonder Woman has come out. And I think Spider-Man might be the one to help uplift the summer again. That and the Apes movie once that comes out. So I'm thinking that with everything that's coming out with the Spider-Man Homecoming stuff, there's a couple things that I wanted to sort of mention, because I know I had barely this week remember seeing an article on IGN that there's a new Spider-Man comic that came out this week, and it was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. So in the regular sense of the actual Amazing Spider-Man, there's a lot of different things that are going on, but this number one issue, I felt like it seemed interesting enough to be a good jumping on point. And so I picked it up and read it, and I really loved it because it's written by this writer named Chip Zdarsky, and he's such a good writer. I've seen some of his other work in different types of things in his own creator-owned books, and he just has a really good flair and a sense of humor. And I thought he did a really good job of capturing Peter Parker's the way he talks and the way Spider-Man talks. And I liked it so much that I suggested it to David, to you, and thought maybe it would be something good for you to jump in on, because I know recently you have been picking up comics here and there again, and you had mentioned in past podcasts that you're not that much up on Spider-Man stuff to be able to speak definitively about certain things. And so I was like, well, maybe this would be something you'd be interested in checking out. And You actually did, and so what was your verdict?
Yeah, I did. I went and picked it up today. I read it today. It is good. I don't know what else to say about it. It is. I've never read a Spider-Man comic in my life, so it's my first time experiencing Spider-Man on the page like that. I've only ever seen him portrayed in movies, so it is well written. It would be unfortunate probably if I go and probably read other Spider-Man that's not so good, because now the bar is set high by this one, because it's good. There's even like, I mean, it's funny to say timing when it comes to a comic book, but there's just like even timing of jokes I feel like in it that are like, wow, that really works. Like I can see this being like, on film kind of
Right.
thing. I don't know. I definitely liked it, and of course now I want to keep reading it, so I'll probably have to keep buying it now. Thanks, Bobby, to start spending
Oh,
money.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
But yeah,
Well,
no, I picked it
that's
up. It was a good read.
good. I'm glad you liked it because I really liked it, and I was like, man, yeah, this would be something really good for people since it's a number one, and it really gives you a lot of Peter Parker, not just all Spider-Man action. It's definitely gives you both of those guys into the series. But just to transition slightly, we got some more news this week and clarification on the whole Venom Black Cat Silver Sable thing that's going on. Because for anyone that's been keeping up, it's been a little bit of back and forth. There was at one point in time they were like, no, they're not part of the MCU. And then I think it was maybe last week that Amy Pascal, who's over at Sony, I think one of the executives over there, she had mentioned in an interview with Kevin Feige sitting right beside her that basically these characters would still be within the world that the Peter Parker that we have that's part of the MCU. So that got really confusing because of the fact that, well, how can they be in the same world as this Peter Parker Spider-Man if this Peter Parker Spider-Man is part of the MCU, but they're not? So everyone started to read into it, or and justifiably so, that maybe these things were supposed to be a surprise and they would get introduced into the MCU at some later date and time. Well, now I think as of today, because I think there was a press conference for Spider-Man Homecoming this morning or sometime around this morning or yesterday. I can't remember the exact date, but Kevin Feige had the chance to clarify those statements, and Amy Pascal as well, to where they basically said that for now and right now, it's just Peter Parker Spider-Man that is part of the MCU. And so Venom, Silver Sable, Black Cat, and everything else that they plan on doing is not a part of that. And they didn't really go into anything further to explain what does that mean in terms of, will Tom Holland show up in this Venom movie, or if it's still supposed to be a part of Spider-Man's world that we know of, that Tom Holland is um, inside of, or if it's something separate. So there's still some murkiness as to whether or not this character is supposed to be inhabiting just a solo world that we're not really going to be a part in including in the MCU, or if it's going to be something that's done at a later point in time. We just don't know, but we know for now they're not part of the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been interesting to kind of watch as everyone on the internet has been reacting to it, because, I mean, from my perspective, it's basically only people like us that know about this kind of stuff and care about all these little details about what universe is what and how does this fit into that are really reacting this way to it. And it's funny how, too, I think people on our side seem to think that will be confusing to everyone. And I don't know, honestly, I don't really fall into that camp. Like, and it's almost complicated even to explain my position on it, but I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, because to be clear, when Amy Pascal said what she said, and I mean, this is what you just said too, Bobby, that, I mean, she did not say that this will be straight up a part of the MCU. It seemed like she was careful to say that, oh, Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, could appear in these movies. And yeah, I think if he did, and that's what they ended up doing, these wouldn't still be part of the MCU. But to the general moviegoer, I don't think they're going to care. Like, basically, in their head, they are kind of part of the MCU. Like, whatever we say would be going on in a Venom story. I'm saying this as someone who doesn't know anything about Venom. So, I mean, if I say something incorrect here in terms of canon, you can please correct me. But, you could have Tom Holland show up as, Spider-Man in that movie, and people will think, oh, it's all kind of the same thing. And in a sense, to them, it kind of is, and that's fine. And, it's just that these characters like Venom won't really be ever in a Marvel movie, and nobody else from the Marvel universe will show up in that movie. But in everyone's kind of fantasy world, it's all kind of the same big happy comic book universe, and I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with it. Like, I think that's fine. I think most people will think that way, and I'm cool with that. I'm not going to try to come along to someone and go, well, by the way, like, that's not like really the same universe as these other movies that Spider-Man comes in. And those people would probably look at me like, dude, I don't give a fuck. like whatever. It's I enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
And they're not saying specifically that they're going to have Peter Parker, i.e. Spider-Man, showing up and playing an active role in this film. And maybe he will, maybe he won't. It could even just be something that he just gets mentioned, or like, I forget what Venom's like alter ego name is.
Eddie Brock.
Yeah, Eddie. So like Eddie could be, it could just be like something like on a newspaper stand that he walks by. Like, it could be so generic, or like he could hear somebody like beating Peter Parker into a locker behind, like, I don't know. It literally could be just a background situation. He might not even have anything to do with the plot in any way, shape, or form.
Right. But I think she's just saying it's possible. It sounds like they don't even know. Like, they don't even know what they're doing yet.
Exactly.
But, it seems like she's just kind of going, yeah, if we could even sign Tom Holland on to do something like that, because he's probably not even contracted yet for anything like that. If we could, sure, we might throw him in. I mean, but maybe not.
Otherwise, it's not pivotal to what we're going for right now.
Right. I don't know. That's how I take it. Sorry, Bobby. I sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's that's the only way you kind of can take it, and it's just a wait and see game at this point, and I guess we'll know sooner than later.
Yeah, I guess so. It's all happening pretty quickly. I'm curious, going back to stuff that we've been watching. That last episode, we didn't get a chance to hear from you, Bobby, on It Comes at Night.
Oh, yeah. I did get to see It Comes at Night.
I'm very curious to see, and now I'm wondering, should I be curious to hear what you have to say or not? Or will it affect my movie going?
So, what do you know about it? Like, had you heard about it already? Or was it something you were kind of interested in seeing?
It's definitely something I've been interested in seeing. I mean, in the weeks leading up to it, I feel like I've been kind of hearing this slow building kind of buzz about it on the internet. Like, it's going to be this kind of different, maybe kind of horror film experience. And it's one of these movies that's shrouded in a lot more mystery than others. So maybe that's what's helping add to that. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested in it, and I know little to nothing about it.
And I think that's probably the best way to go into it, because I am sort of in the similar boat where I did see it, and I had only previously seen the one trailer and knew that Joel Edgerton was in it. And beyond that, there isn't a lot of people in the cast that you would know. It's very much a small production, and it's about this family that's living in the woods, and they're kind of like secluding themselves from something, but you don't really know what until another family arrives, and they're on a tense sort of edge in terms of inviting this family to their house because of the nature of whatever it is that's going on and why they've isolated themselves. And then it becomes a lot about these two families interacting, and there's that underlying tension that's there because they don't know each other, and yet they're trying to get to know each other and be friendly. Meanwhile, there's this sort of larger threat that's out there that you don't really know about. And it's it's I enjoyed it, but I can see why if other people walked out of it wouldn't, because it's a different type of a movie. It's very intimate. It's slow paced in terms of it's deliberate in its pace of being slow because it's ramping up to build tension and really sort of making these decisions to where it feels very realistic, and it just is setting a mood and a sense of dread and tension. And I thought it was done in a way that was very effective, and it has that sort of that that sort of quality of, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Road, that movie that came out
Oh, I wanted to see
a while
that.
back. It was about this father and son, and it was sort of a post-apocalyptic world. And I think it had Viggo Mortensen in it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't sound familiar to you guys, but it was very much in the sense of when you're watching that movie, you're just fearful for these two people and the different things that they come across as they're traveling. And there's that same sense that you get watching this movie. And I think it's better left a lot unsaid. And all I can say is that it's a slow burn, but I thought it was done in a way that made it very um, different than a lot of the types of movies that you see these days. And it's something that maybe you might not catch it in the theater, but it would be another one that I think that if you have a chance to catch it on a Redbox, then go ahead and pop it in and see what you think. But I would be curious to hear what other people think, because I think I've seen some people kind of get upset by the movie based on what their expectations were going into it. And I went into it with none really whatsoever because I didn't know enough about it to form an expectation. So, yeah, I would be very curious to hear what other people think.
So do you think in terms of like good, like edgier seat kind of scary movies, like it compared to say like Get Out this year, like what, or am I like talking crazy talk?
No, I mean, I think that's a good question. And I would say there's some similarities there in terms of the way the tension builds. And it definitely does that in this film. So you have to be pretty patient with it going into it because there's definitely a lot of setting up that tension and the mood. And once it really sort of hits, it hits hard. And so it's, yeah, I think it does a good job in doing that, but it's a matter of can people be patient enough for it and how will they feel after the whole thing is said and done.
Right.
And I going into it just knowing what I knew from the trailers or the first trailer because I didn't watch it any of the other ones, then for me it felt like wow, I walked out of it just like contemplating it and thinking about it because it was sort of in a way that I wasn't expecting from what the little bit I knew about it. So it was still pretty interesting, and I haven't followed up and read any type of dissection of the movie, which I would think would be kind of interesting because there's a lot of different things that go on in the movie that you don't really know one way or the other what's going on. So it's an interesting thing that these are actual choices that are made in the movie in terms of the way it's done that way, as opposed to it just sort of left stuff out and it was done sloppily. It was done with a purpose. And so it may not necessarily be for everyone. It's
Well,
really hard to talk about.
Yeah, no, I
I
get
don't want
that.
to give anything away.
And
But,
yeah, I don't
yeah.
want to know much of anything.
No, I don't
more,
want
'cause,
anything more.
Yeah, I do still want to see it, even to the point that if I had the time, I'd still see it in the theater if I could. I don't know if I can, but if I could, I
Yeah.
would. Michelle, you didn't. There was some stuff I think when we talked about what we watched in the last episode that you didn't really get to talk about. Anything else you watched?
Mostly just TV stuff. I finished up The Handmaid's Tale because it aired the last episode. And dude, if you've not watched this show yet, or if you're kind of on the fence about it, you've got to watch the show. God, it is so good. Like the writing, the acting, just the storyline, all of it is it is on point. And you know, and I just lost her name, Elizabeth Moss is just, she's, God, Jesus, she's so good. Like, she is, I wish I had better words than good. Like, she's captivating to watch, and her acting is just, it's killer, dude. And, you know, I really feel like this year at the Emmys, they could really clean up some house. It was just done so well. The production value of it, just everything start to finish. And that last episode, mother of God, like I like stood up in my living room and just slow clapped. It was like, good night. That was an ending. Like, that's how you close one window and you open a whole nother door into a whole nother world. I was like, good night. We have just catapulted ourselves into like a whole bunch of more stuff, and in such a good way too. Like, it's almost like nothing like bad's happened, but there's this looming possibility that like shit's about to hit the fan, dude. And it's like you're watching it and like you're cheering and you're like, yes. It's just, I don't know. There's just moments, and I could talk spoilers about it, but I won't, because it's just so good, dude. So yeah, if you
David,
guys have not
are you
watched
still
it,
watching it?
watch it.
I should be. I mean, I watched those first 3 episodes, and I think they're great.
You've got to watch it.
I'm not denying that. I just haven't watched the rest yet. I think I noticed my wife has already moved on without me. I think I noticed she looks like she's started watching episodes beyond me, because we were watching them together. But yeah, I need to do that.
It's like, I feel like each episode gets better and better than the last. And I will say that there is one episode that's a little later on, and I can't remember what it was, and it was probably the only episode I was kind of like, But as a whole, though, sweet goodness. Just, I mean, for one episode to kind of be slightly off in comparison to the others, just, no. It was so good. So very good. Oh my God.
Anything else you saw? TV?
I'm behind the times. I started watching The Leftovers on HBO.
Oh, cool. That just wrapped up. It's the end of the show, right?
Second season. Or the end of the show. I don't know.
Was it just second
Yes,
season?
I think the show's ending.
Yeah, I think the show's done.
After the second season? Well, I started binging the first season, and that show is so messed up, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. I can't wait to get into it.
I mean, I started it because I was like, oh, it's just 2 seasons. I was like, yeah, I can handle that, you know? It's and it's messed up in a way, and the thing that's it's not frustrating, but why it's done well, I can tell you why this is a good film or show, is that because it just leaves you with new questions every single episode, and then it'll just slightly start to answer in the next episode, and then that question just expounds and gets larger and in a different scope, and you're like, wait, so what? Whoa. And it's just, I'm 6 or 7 episodes in, and I'm super hooked. Like, I literally just started this weekend, and I'm 6 or 7 episodes in, and they're solid hours. Actually, the pilot is like an hour and a half almost.
Yeah.
Long, dude. But yeah,
I have to rewatch it.
I highly recommend it, because even after watching that first episode, all I kept thinking through most of the pilot was going, the show is so fucked up. This is really messed up.
Right.
This is really messed up. And that's like the thought that's constantly kind of protruding in your head. You're like, why am I still watching
I'm sorry to let it
this?
so hard.
Like, why am I still watching? You can't like not watch. And then you start asking
No,
questions.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Michelle. I was just laughing at what you said, because I can imagine that's what the show's like. You're just like, this is really messed up. This is really messed up.
Yeah, that's what you do through the whole pilot. And then you start asking questions like, well, wait, why is that? I don't understand. Why are they like that? Why are they like that? Why is who like this? I don't understand. Why is this happening? Like, and it's not even the main event. Like, the main event is almost like a backstory to the whole show. That's what's crazy about it, is like everything else, it's all about what happened from that moment. That moment is so kind of like, meh, as the show continues on. I was like, that's the thing that happened. But everything else is fucked up from that moment. And you're just like, what the hell? And dude, I'm super in, and I'm probably going to finish this up pretty quick. I can tell. I'm liking it a lot.
Yeah, it's actually, it is 3 seasons. It just ended its 3rd.
Okay.
It ended on June 4th. What was
I
that,
know
Bob?
we just, Michelle started launching into talking about it, but did you mention at least what the show is about for anyone that doesn't even know what the hell The Leftovers
For The
is?
Leftovers? Well, and here's the thing. I can't even say that much about it, quite honestly. It's basically
The premise.
the premise is that there's a world event that happens, and I forget what the percentage of it is, but a percentage of the population literally just vanishes. So with this small portion of the world that just disappears into thin air, it leaves everybody else questioning, what the hell just happened? Where did they go? And I mean, it's just this huge big WTF. And so the show, I mean, literally, it's a very quick moment. And then fast forward 3 years from this event. And it's basically where their lives are 3 years from that event and how everybody is just dealing with the situation. Some people have lost people. Some people haven't lost people. Some people have reacted very strongly to the actual occurrence of the event, and they've gone off in a different way. And there's other people that are kind of like whatever about it and blasé, and other people are very serious about it. Like there's just all these different like tropes of groups of how people reacted, and now it's 3 years later, so they're heavily invested in how they think, feel, and believe about the situation. And so you're just watching these people interact, and everybody, because it's focusing in on one town, the show is, but it's a whole world event. Yeah, dude, you're just like, what the, like, I mean, it's like the event, you watch the pilot, I'm not giving it away, the event happens, and within the first 3 minutes, you just kind of, you pull back in your chair, like, did that just fucking happen? And this is in the 3 year later part, and you're like, this is nuts. Like, this is not how the world operates. Like, you're like, what is happening here? And so it was captivating in that, like, what is happening? Like, you're just constantly asking yourself, what is happening the whole time? And so, and I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying seeing things slowly progress and start to answer questions and then open up whole new aspects to those same questions I had. I'm like, oh, well, that just got a lot deeper. All right, then. That's cool. So, yeah, it's going to keep me going for a while, which is sad because I also wanted to watch Westworld. So I think I'm going to have to knock this out first and then go to Westworld because I can't handle too much more.
At least you got time. Westworld Season 2 is not coming 1 year after Westworld Season 1. So.
Well, but see, and I'm saying this, and we have Game of Thrones starting up in, like, what, less than 3 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, that'll be a shorter season.
But still, Game of Thrones every Sunday night. That is what is going to be happening,
Oh,
kids.
no, there's no doubt about that.
Let's just talk. Let's be serious about the situation.
Yes.
So anyways, yeah, I'm doing TV land. I haven't gone to movies. I've been lame.
No. Nothing lame about that. Look at me. No. I only saw a really bad movie on
At home.
I would say rental, but I bought it anyway.
At home.
All right. Well, before we go, as anybody who listens to us regularly knows, we're even these past 2 episodes now, we're changing up the format a little bit. We're going to start doing some more segments like we've done in the past. And we're going to start a new segment. And sorry, Michelle's reacting to the, oh, wait, that's right, this is happening. So, yeah, we're going to start doing a new segment. And I think we're going to call it, we'll just call it either The Challenge or I Challenge You. We don't even really have a name for it yet.
You know, I think I'd favor to pull, I say, I challenge you.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Okay.
That's good.
So we'll call it I Challenge You. And basically one of us is going to get to challenge another member of the podcast to watch something that maybe they haven't seen, maybe they wouldn't normally watch. It could mostly probably be movies, but it could even be a TV show. If it's a TV show, I'd say you should at least watch at least 2, maybe 3 episodes of the show.
I would say 2 episodes is a good pull.
Yeah. Yeah, by the next time we do that segment, just that person will watch it. You'll get a chance to talk about it, and then that person will get to challenge the next person. Since we're just starting off, I used the lovely Bowl of Destiny to pick the first name. I did that earlier today, and the bowl picked Yasha. So Yasha gets to begin this fun little chain.
Right, Yasha, first up.
Of challenging people.
Oh,
so
boy.
Oh, gosh.
So...
Who is he gonna pick?
What's that?
Who is he gonna pick? Who is it gonna be?
I was wrestling with the idea, who could I pick? Who am I going to pick? I even sent out messages asking you guys, like, what did you... David, you didn't get one, but I sent one to Michelle and Bobby as to, like, who, what haven't you seen that you would get a challenge to or whatever and stuff like that. Well, I'm sorry to say, Michelle, I'm going to have to challenge you to watch Looper. And here's why. Ryan Johnson is the director of this movie, and he is also the director of the next Star Wars movie. Since I know you're going to see the Star Wars movie, I feel like you should get a feel for what this guy might be directing or his special effects capabilities when it comes to directing. Because I thoroughly enjoyed the movie Looper. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the special effects for what he was, what kind of budget he was working were really good. I love the idea of the time traveling that they had. I love the actors playing the roles, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis. I just really enjoyed the movie and the storyline. And when I heard that Ryan Johnson was attached to direct the next Star Wars movie, that got me even more excited. So since you said that you haven't seen that movie, I want to challenge you to see it, because I think that you should watch this and see his work in a film, especially a sci-fi film like time travel and stuff like that, even though it's a little gritty, and get ready for Star Wars, which is coming out next December.
I have to say, like, a part of me was like, oh dear God, if he picks me, is somebody going to make me watch a film or a TV show that I have no desire to see? And I'm sure it'll come up at some point. But I was like, God, for this first one, like, I'm hoping that it's something that I am actually interested in seeing and just haven't, for whatever reasons in the cosmic universe, have not had the chance or opportunity to watch yet. And thank goodness you picked this film, because I do have an interest to see this film. I don't think I've never not had an interest to see this film. It just, for whatever reasons in my life, I never got the opportunity to see it in the theater, and haven't really, with time with everything else to pick it up. And so I am very curious to see this film, and I'm curious to see what this director is capable of doing, because everybody keeps referring to it, and I'm like, oh, I've got to watch this film. Like, it's like, I feel like every time I read an article about the new Star Wars film about him and they reference Looper, I'm like, God, I've got to see it. Like, it reminds me, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to watch that movie. Oh yeah, I got to watch this movie. So now you're like, you're making me finally go, okay, I have to sit down for 2 hours at some point this week and I have to watch this film. So, which is great. Like, I'm excited. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And things like that happen. I mean, we've talked about that before. I think every single one of us have that problem that if we don't see a movie the weekend it comes out, chances are it's not going to get seen for at least another 3 or 4 months, maybe longer. Right. Because life gets in the way. And I totally get that. But I have sung the praises of this movie so many times to too many different friends. And then when you listed that in one of the things that you haven't seen, and just knowing that the connection that he has with Star Wars, I'm just like, all right, yeah, I got to challenge you to watch this movie. I really want to hear what you think of it, because I know you like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think you like Bruce Willis. So, I mean, the movie it's a solid movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think, because I agree. It is a very solid movie. I think enjoyed it probably as much as it sounds like Yasha did. But I also recognize that even though I think generally it has positive reaction, it is definitely a movie that I have heard the complete opposite opinion on. I have very close friends that absolutely hated it.
Right.
I thought you had a long-standing sort of debate with one of your friends about the quality of this movie.
I did. A friend who has been on this show before. Yes. I will call out Miss Angela Lopez that she is not a fan of this film at all, and is quite not understanding why I would like this movie. And no, I think it's great. And you'll have some people that'll probably try to prove to you that the way time travel is used technically makes no sense, and I actually disagree. And of course, you also have some people who it really bothers them the Joseph Gordon-Levitt makeup.
I've heard that one.
And I mean, there's no doubt that it's you're used to the way he looks, and now you look at him and you're like, it's weird.
Right.
But the movie is great in my opinion as well. But because knowing the people that are out there that aren't as big of fans of this, I'm curious to see where you might fall. So.
Okay. Well, challenge accepted.
Sweet.
Or as Barney Stinson would say, challenge accepted.
Looper it is. And then you get to already start thinking about who are you going to challenge next.
Yes, I have a whole week to sit on that.
You got tons of time to figure it out. He had a few hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had like 8 hours?
Yeah, you got lots of time.
Yeah, I had about 8 hours. About 8 hours.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we are going to get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening. You can let us know what you think of the show by emailing us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can also find us on our various social media accounts. There's links to those on our website over on the right-hand side. I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Curry.
Thanks for listening.